Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. We have a really interesting episode today. We have a guest that we talked to a couple days ago. His name is Tony Scott. He has a really interesting story. Having said that, for today, we want to talk about some of the new properties and some of the information that we found and that we've heard, and construction that we've been seeing going on around town, and what that means for Las Vegas, what that means on how we're going to come out of the pandemic, and what kind of success we think they might see. We can start with the one property, and we've talked about it before, but that property that opened during the pandemic, and they seem to be doing pretty well, and that's Circa downtown.
It is interesting, actually. I was looking at their room rates, or considering it is a luxury property. I don't know if you had a chance to look into their suites or anything. I was just taking a peek, and it's actually very reasonable. You can get their suite for about 120. That's pretty good for any Vegas suite, and it looks like it's pretty cool. I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. I know people were excited about it. I mean, multi-level here. There is the fact that it's a new property downtown. That's a really big deal. I know the Grand has done a lot of remodeling, but this is like a brand new, started from scratch, tore that area down, started going back up, and they've created something very cool. At least from everything that I've seen, the vibe is very adult. It's very geared towards someone that wants to have a good time. It's very geared towards someone that wants to feel cool in their hotel. Their stadium pool, it looks like, I'm assuming pools will be open in the summer just based on what the governor's directives have been. So I'm really keen to see how that's going to play out, because it seems like a very cool place. Honestly, it's probably going to be known as the coolest place downtown. But then the other level, of course, it opened during the pandemic. So these are two really big things to hit downtown in the last few months.
We did a little research on this, and it looks like they had about 1,500 jobs when they opened. So that's huge for the economy. Resorts World is planning on opening this summer, which is, literally around the corner, and that's going to be 6,000 jobs. So that's really one of the mega properties, like strip mega properties. So 6,000 jobs, and the president is Scott Sabella, who was my president over at Mirage. He was part of the MGM Resorts family for a very long time, and he's now over there at Resorts World.
I'm trying to think back when I first heard Resorts World's going to open next year. That was probably 2014, right? It's the rumorville around the opening. I think they've actually had some pretty significant changes at the C-level. For the C-level executives, there's kind of been like a revolving door. Some of it, I think, had to do with money. Some of it has to do with, well, where are we in construction? But it looks like, the LED screen's up. It's pretty massive. This is kind of an interesting thing too with Resorts World. I don't know if you heard about this, but they put a call out to artists, to local artists, and I think this was kind of an interesting. It feels very typical Vegas for me, and I'm not sure why, but maybe we can really quickly discuss it, because they put a call out to artists, and basically saying, hey, we want our the back of house to just look beautiful, probably to kind of match the front of house. And I think we've been around enough that some back of houses here on the strip are they're terrible. But I thought this was a pretty interesting thing, because instead of paying for the mural artist to come out, they basically wanted to do it in kind, give you that kind of time, effort, and intellectual license for nothing, for exposure, basically.
It's to those 6,000 people that are back of house, because those are the only people that it's never gonna be a guest that sees it.
I think they ended up paying for it or scrapping for it. So I'm not sure what the outcome was, but I do remember there being a little bit. And granted, especially that was messaged out, I think either last summer or last fall, like in the middle of this pandemic, where everyone's struggling.
Yeah.
And when you really think about artistry, artists, and entertainment, like, these guys are the reason we have anything on Netflix, because these are the creatives in our world that allow us to still be entertained and to smile, even though it's been a pretty dark year.
Well, and the other thing too that I'm really interested to see how it goes. So, really, just if you want to just compare Circa and Resorts World, Resorts World is on the strip. Just by the sheer fact of the amount of jobs. 1,500 jobs versus 6,000, that it's a much bigger property. And I think that they're depending on that being an international traveler. I think that they're going after that Asian tour market. And is that smart right now? Where Circa, on the other end, is not relying on that. They're relying on that California drive-in market, and they're really relying on, you know, more of that American or party kind of vibe versus, you know, a Wynn or a Bellagio that really has a huge international clientele.
Resorts World, their background or their parent company is massive in Asia. I think they're based out of Singapore or something like that. So to your point, is it a smart idea to look for the international traveler? I think that's a really great question. I think the answer is yes. I think even in the middle of this pandemic, even if they opened today or opened a few months ago, they'd still be out there promoting it because that's kind of, it seems to me that's kind of going to be their bread and butter. We talk about it all the time here. You have to have the international tourists. I mean, you have to, you really do. If we stick to just domestic here, Vegas can slowly kind of crawl back, and we'll definitely get that big weekend crowd. Especially 3-day weekends will be huge, but without that international traveler, we're I don't say we're necessarily in trouble, but Vegas isn't Vegas without it.
This next property is opening before Resorts World. They're planning on opening in March. It's Virgin. So that's that property that is where Hard Rock Hotel was. I'm super excited. I was, out of the three, I was probably most excited about Virgin. It's Richard Branson. It's great. They retained, I don't know what percentage, but a pretty high percentage of the Hard Rock employees. So what happened was when they shut down, at least from my friends that work there, they were given the opportunity to get paid during that shutdown. So that it had nothing to do with the pandemic. They were planning on shutting the property down because they had to shut it down. They knocked down the building and they rebuilt it. And they had planned on keeping all of those staff. They kept them at a certain percentage of their original pay and kept them through. They kept their insurance, they kept everything. So I know a lot of my friends that work there were like, great, I'm gonna go on vacation, or I have these little side jobs that I'm gonna do in between because I'm waiting for that to come back. And just as they had promised, they are now opening in March. It looks like at the end of March, March 30th, I believe, is their opening date. And so that makes sense to me that they didn't put out these numbers of like, 3,000 or 4,000, however many employees, because they're retaining a lot of their employees. With Circa, Resorts World, and Virgin, I feel like Virgin kind of sits in the middle of those two. It's not going to be as high end as a Resorts World, and it's not going to be downtown. It's going to be a little bit more in the middle. It's going to be luxury, but at a decent price. And I think they're going to have a really good local and LA driving kind of market there.
Right. And I think what's going to be, or kind of to go back to, we didn't really mention this, but my understanding is Resorts World is opening with a 5,000 seat theater. That's what we need, another 5,000 seat theater in Las Vegas. That's Zappos, the Coliseum, MGM Grand Gardens, 12 to 17 based on configurations. T-Mobile is 18,000 or between 10 and 18 based on configurations. We now have obviously Raiders Stadium or Allegiant Stadium, 67,000 people. And the Sphere as well will be a 5,000 seater, is my understanding. The Joint will be coming. That's another 5,000 seat theater. I mean, those are two big theaters that play. Like the Joint is iconic in Vegas. My first concert was at the old Joint, ever. The Joint definitely represents, I think, a big part of Vegas. Anyone that's been in Vegas has probably been to the Joint. You've been to something. The variety of artists that they've booked there is pretty wild, so they usually have something for everyone. But those are two big names in entertainment that will be coming back or entering the playing field, and I know this is a whole other discussion, but another 5,000 seat theater right next to the Wynn and Encore on the tail end of the North Strip. How does that fare? What does that do? What are the challenges? I can think of so many right off the top of my head. Just geography is one of them, but this is a tangent, but I think it's a really interesting conversation to have later on because there's going to present some challenges.
Okay, everybody. So we have a very special guest. His name's Tony Scott, and he's a good friend of mine. I worked with him for many years. We worked together as valet, so I have a little bit of experience working frontline that we've been talking about. Tony was my supervisor there, and he has a really cool story. So I want to turn it over to you, Tony. Tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
My name's Tony Scott. I've been here in Las Vegas, born and raised. I'm 45 now. I'm actually been here a while. I can't believe I'm mid-40s now. But love this town, love everything it stands for. I've seen it go through many ups and downs. I was here in the first big boom in '99, bought my first house then, and been through the downturn in 2007 and 8, and now the recent thing with COVID. But very optimistic about our future here. This is an amazing city. Have 4 kids, married for very happily. Love my kids and my family more than anything in the world. It's kind of driven me to where I am to this point. But worked in hotel, casino industry jobs pretty much all the way through college, paid my way through college here at UNLV, and continued all the way up until just very recently with the shutdown.
It's always great to meet someone who's really been here their whole lives and has seen the, like you said, ups and downs that the city has gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So, a frontline employee, what does that mean, and where were you working?
Frontline employee. So yeah, basically I've been a valet attendant ever since I got my first job at the MGM Grand when I was 21 years old as a valet attendant. And I stayed there for almost 18, little over 18 years. And then I went to a valet job also at the Golden Nugget, which I was there up until the shutdown for COVID. But a frontline employee is the first face that a casino, when you pull into a casino, it's usually some of the first people you see when you enter that casino.
That's really great to hear. And it's also interesting because frontline employees, and I remember specifically valet, whenever we would have a production on the strip or something new that was coming in, like you have to tell the frontline employees, that is the first interaction that anyone has. You know, if someone's pulling in and checking into the hotel, when they hand you the keys, that is the very first time that they're seeing any kind of representation, like, you know, actual human representation of the property. Our valets, generally speaking, are all very good and very knowledgeable, not just about their property, but about everything in the city. You know, at MGM with all the different entertainment options, you had to know each one.
Oh yeah.
You had to know price points. You had to know what was this about, what's that about, and who you should be recommending them to. You know, it's not just here's the keys. It's, hey, I'm here to represent the venue, the property. You want information? I mean, like, you're kind of like a one-stop shop for everyone.
Oh yeah, and the questions we have had over the years. Oh my gosh, we should write books. Billy, I'm sure you're keen to that too. Yeah, we get some funny stuff. Like people depending, I don't know, they'll just open up, you know. But it's also they're handing you the keys to their car, and for a lot of people, that's their second baby. You know, their wife and their car.
Talk a little bit about, how did COVID affect your job? You know, did things happen all at once? Was it like a slow phase out, or how did all
wow
that?
No, it to me it was very like, you know, what, I didn't even understand the phone call at first. It was kind of like, what do you mean we're not coming back to work? Like, you know, and what was crazy to hear too was even with a lot of the, you know, the managers or the hotel crew in general, they were just as perplexed as I was. It was kind of like, it was laid down on us. Hey, this is what's going on. Obviously, you know, I started speaking about COVID-19, and I'd heard whispers and rumors about it, but it, you know, nothing I was taking too seriously. And then I think, like most of the world, just kind of caught us off guard. That's insane to think it's been almost 12 months, but we're in that 11th month now. But you know, with that being said, it was just, it was, then my gaze kind of went to the world. Like, you know, like at that point, it was just kind of like my own little world. And then being at home and going, okay, well, I don't know, you know, my wife's like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And I don't know. This is what it is. It's what we've been told. And then we started really obviously diving into what's going on all over the world. And it's you know, I think everybody knows the story from that point. Then with travel shutting down so much, I think that's the craziest thing to me. I mean, I've been born and raised here, and I'm used to those airplanes coming over Tropicana and going into and you can drive down Eastern and right there in that area, and you won't see a plane for 4 or 5 minutes. And it's just insane to me. Yeah. I mean, because that's what this city is, are those planes, you know. And it's just a whole different atmosphere.
What I love about this conversation and some of the conversations that we've been having is it's giving a glimpse into different people's realities, because I talk to some of my friends and family that live in other parts of the country, and they are still working, or, you know, maybe their jobs weren't affected. They don't realize the impact that the shutdown of a community has on us.
It really is insane to me. Like even just talking to one of my buddies who's still at the MGM, he said, you know, he kind of said, like, I guess they brought back their top and I don't know if people know about seniority, but I'm sure that's pretty standard, but they're top seniority guys. They brought like 4 of them back. They said the occupancy was at 13%. And they said that was good. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, just like, I remember the days where we would not drop below 90%, 92%, like straight for months and months and months on end. For people in other states, they're like, well, it's not affecting me as much. But here, I've heard numbers as high as 45% of people here in the city are not out of work. You can't park a car virtually. You can't have someone come on a vacation virtually. You can't have, they either got to be here, and then obviously the casino's doing everything they can to stay afloat. So they're cutting costs as needed, and they're keeping skeleton crews. So
since you've been here for a while, and we were all here during the 07, 08, 09 financial crisis, that was also a dark time in Vegas. I mean, I remember in 08, in those deepest parts of that crisis, people weren't coming here, and you look around, and it was really scary to see the strip that empty. I never thought in my life I'd see the strip as emptier than that. People were still coming, but nowhere near the numbers we were used to. But now people basically stopped coming to Vegas, right? Like seeing the geese and the ducks on Las Vegas Boulevard is a frightening image when you're seeing hustle and bustle of people, How did you bounce back from that, right? Did life just go right back to normal from the crisis? And then how do you see like you guys coming back from this? Is it going to be just a bounce back? Or is it going to be like a phased return? Or is it going to be like the crisis where everything kind of like snaps back to where it should be?
Yeah, the way I see it, and the more I think about it, I don't like. I want to give a great outlook for the summer. I want to say like May when the governor comes back on and the mayor, and we start talking this through, everybody's gonna go, you know what, let's just go. Let's bring Vegas back. And even if he does, I really don't think that anybody's going to be. I mean, I'm sure we'll have a few. We'll have our diehards that are like, let's go, but I really think that most people are going to be very conservative with that. And they're going to be like, well, I'd love to go to Vegas, but hun, we've been on unemployment for this long. We've done this for this long. We need to get back in the swing of things. So I really don't see a huge turnout, even if they do open back up in May or June this summer. I'm hoping fall, and maybe next, sadly, this is sad, I'm saying this out loud, but I'm hoping for next New Year's, maybe we can get people back out here again in some decent numbers. But I'm really thinking the year after, obviously, would be amazing. And I wish I could give this great outlook. I wish I could just go, yeah, let's do it. June, we're back in, we're going to be moving. But I just know that just as we creep out of this slowly, I think it's taken us a year to get here. I think it's going to take us another year to get back out. I don't think it's going to be a quick thing. So I really think that in Vegas, everybody needs to be, I think we're already seeing this 100%, that we're kind of tightening our belt straps, and we're saying, you know what, we need to start thinking smart. We need to plan for another year before we're going to get back to where we were. I tried to be as positive as I could in it. I tried to say, you know what, we were forced to shut down. We were forced to take a break. But when I looked at it, I was working 60-hour weeks at that time with my valet job. And then I also worked at a gym. And then I was also doing my kids program. So when I added up all the hours, I was doing 60 to 64 hours a week. I was pretty much, my time here was sleeping so I could go to another job. I wasn't spending as much time with my kids. So like looking back on it, I was just like, I don't want to say I'm happy this happened. Of course, I'm not happy this happened, but I really look at it. It was like a kind of like punched me in my teeth a little bit and said, hey, you need to take a little break, and you need to go back to what's really important in your life, and you need to reassess things. And I don't mean to offend anybody if anybody's watching this and going like, hey, I don't have a job now. That's not what I mean at all. But trying to be as positive as I can about it. I don't have a job. I didn't have a job either. Is maybe this is a good reinforcement of what's critical in our lives, and maybe turn us inward and say like, hey, I really miss my family. This really made me see how much I love and miss my family and friends. This really made me see how important those people are in my life to me. Whereas before I kind of, not in a bad way, but I kind of put them on the back burner because I had all these other things going on. And this way it reinforced really what's important.
Sometimes I think we kind of put things on the back burner at home, because when you spend that much time away from home or at your job, you make new friends, right? You make work friends that kind of become your support, right? Like you're committed to this job, you're working a lot. But a lot of ways, it's like your work friends, your work wives, and all these things that make it fun. Of course, guests make it fun for the most part. Guests make it fun. But that community that you build around ends up being kind of like your second family in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Definitely.
is
And
that something that you missed? Is that something that
oh
you
gosh. Yeah, that's really one of the biggest things that's touched me about this shutdown is not only am I not allowed to see my family and friends because obviously the social distancing and how we're trying to beat this thing, but in addition to that, all my work friends, I mean, those guys and girls that we would run into and work with at the hotels we worked at. And I know I'm not speaking for just myself, but anybody in this city, in this community, is those are the things you really, really, really miss. I mean, I miss Big Lou and the jokes he cracked all the time. I miss, lots of the guys, like all the different things they would do, the pranks we would play on each other. My wife was laid off from her job as well, and she had a desk job, but she still went to a location where there were desks, and she still had friends at work that were all around her, and they would go to lunch together, and that was the first thing she mentioned within the first week, was she like, I miss my friends. I miss my work friends. I miss being able to talk to someone other than you, and she's pointing at me. I'm like, hey.
That's exactly where this came about. Honestly, this is why this started, because David and I started having conversations, and we were like, we always tried to have Zoom conversations because we wanted to see each other. We wanted to be able to not just have that phone call, because it was that little bit of human interaction that you can try to squeeze out of this situation. Tell us what you've done, because I mean, I know this, but I want you to tell, like, everybody watching, how you handle this and what you're doing now, because I think it's a really cool story.
Yeah. So basically, I kind of briefly mentioned before, but I had another job other than ballet going through. I've worked at a local gym here, a Raw Fitness, great gym here in town. They have 6 different locations, awesome place. But anyway, I also worked and I built up to it. But about 4 years ago, I had one of my friends who took the Raw challenge and did our Raw adult gym. And he said, hey, what we're doing right now, I'd love to have this for my team. And he was coaching a high school soccer team. And he said, could you do this for my team? And I ended up using the Raw gyms through the owner was cool enough to let me use them. And I started doing conditioning for the soccer team for one of the local high schools. And it started growing, and other teams wanted it, and other softball teams caught on and said, hey, can you do this for my team too? And then I decided that it wasn't just these high school kids that needed a little extra assistance. I started reaching out to people in our Raw Fitness family and saying like, hey, does anybody want me to train their kids? I love kids. But then when they gave the okay to open the gyms back up, I brought the kids program back, and I didn't expect anything really, because everybody's obviously so worried about COVID, and we follow all the precautions. We wear the face masks, we wear the face shields. We have them 6-foot boxes spread out. And our numbers kept growing, and I was like, what's going on? And what happened was the parents reached out to me and they said, my kids need to interact with other kids. I really think that we tend to lose focus that our kids, even though they're little and they don't really know how to express themselves as well, but they have the same needs we do. They have the same needs for social interaction. They have the same needs to learn. And if you think about it, when you're 5 to 10 years old, like how many things you learn by observation. And when you're stuck in your house all day long, and the only thing you can observe is a computer screen, a TV screen, or your mom and dad saying the same things over and over, or your dog, like there isn't much you can really learn. But when you get around other kids and you learn how to interact, and you watch how they interact, and you watch how they move, and they watch how they do things, you can learn so much more from observation. And I said to my wife, and it was crazy, she brought it up the other day, we went on 4th of July to a camping trip, and we got out of town, we got up to Utah. And I looked at her and she thought I was nuts. But after a long kind of talk, and I looked at her, I go, I think we should sell the house and take the money we get from it and open a business and start working with kids. And she laughed and said, shut up. And I was like, I'm serious. I really think that's where I'm at in my mind. If you can get with me on this. And we decided after another day of talking back and forth on that camping trip that this was it. So we opened up Glitch Fitness. So it's a kids gym. And we take these kids anywhere from 4 years old all the way up to 17 years old. And it's a kids only gym. No parents, no adults are allowed. I mean, they can come in and snap a few photos, but with COVID, you're out in the parking lot, sit in your car. No, but we take the kids and we hang out with them, and we show them the basics of movement, the basics of nutrition, and the basics of mindset. And we get them in an inclusive environment where they know that that's a safe zone. Everybody supports one another. We work on goals, fitness goals. We work on nutrition goals, and we work on mindset goals. We also have things we call growth work at the end of every class, where we send them home with a goal for the next time we see them. And the last one was, I need you to do something good for your parents. And I clarify with them, chores don't count because that's required. It has to be something that you do on your own that surprises your parents and makes them look at you and actually go, wow, that is really cool. You did that. Thank you so much for doing that for me. We just get the kids moving. We get them interacting in a safe environment as well. Of course, we're following all the guidelines, keeping the kids safe. But it's been a life changer for me. It's been a life changer for me to actually live a dream that I've been wanting to do forever. And COVID, in a way, just made it say, like, I was like, if we're not going to do it now, what other time can we do it? Let's just do it. This is it. But it's been amazing. The outreach has been amazing from the community, and we're so excited about it. So excited.
For everybody watching, I'm going to go ahead and link everything to Glitch. Any other social media? I know that you have like an Instagram page, all the social handles and everything. I'll link to that, because I know even when we were a little bit more virtual, you were doing some really cool things on Instagram that I was able to join in with my boys. And so you do some really cool things. I love how you just described it, and we want to give you as much support as possible, because I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me talk about all the things that have affected this community and affected me personally. But I know I'm not the only one going through it. And if I could leave with any quick message, I just want to say to everybody out there, keep your chin up. We're going to get through this like we always do. And this is anywhere in the country, but especially here in Vegas. We're going to come back. I have no doubt whatsoever. This city, born and raised here, the people here, the community here, what we've developed, we've fought for it, and we've made it together. And we've created a city that's unlike any other on this earth. And I really think that this is just another little chink in our armor, and this is going to be something that we're going to come back from stronger. So keep your chin up, stay strong, support your family, support your friends, support your neighbors, support your local small businesses, and let's keep this community humming for sure. Let's go.
Well, guys, thanks so much for coming by and spending some time with us. That's always fun. That was a really great conversation to have with Tony. Really, really excited for him. That's a really great transition that he made. And I'm really excited for the future of Vegas with all these shows coming out, with all these venues opening and properties opening. It really gives you hope. And I think we're going to be on our way back, hopefully sooner rather than later. Well, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. If you guys have any comments, feel free. You can blast us on our comments down below. Send us an email. Don't be shy, and we'll see you next time.
See you. Bye-bye.